And that's basically it. My name is Eli David. I'm going to do a short intro basically about what I'm working on. And that means, Jill, that you're going to start in about 1.5 minutes. So prepare yourself. So as I mentioned, my name is Eli, currently in Haifa, Israel. I'm working on Startup Link. It's a global startup ecosystem map and a research center. We are basically having about 60,000 startups on the map. It's a very interesting resource. Let me try to even share it with you just a second. I'm going to try to quickly show it to you. So the idea is that we're not only creating a map of the startup ecosystem, but we're also ranking all the startups ecosystems in the world, about 1,000 cities and 100 countries that are in this research. And that's a really good thing. I think the most valuable thing over here is what you're going to see now. So the map, you can add your startup for free, co-working space, accelerator, and so on to kind of visualize how ecosystems look like. And the most interesting thing is probably this thing. Over here, you can see the rankings of all the cities in the world and all the countries according to an algorithm. And the importance is that you want to be in a place that has a good startup ecosystem. We always try to convince people to relocate, either leave your ecosystem if it's underperforming or lead it in case it's underperforming, but you can't stay passive and complain about it. So staying in a place that is not good is relatively not a good option for a startup founder. So we totally encourage all of you to check the rankings below the map and see how your city and country are ranking. Let me just show you an example. If we put Finland here, for example, you can see all the cities in Finland, how they're ranking, so you can kind of have a wide array of options to kind of have a look at. And again, this is going to be in startuplink.com if you're interested. Good. I'm just going to share a few last links before we move to Joule. And we have only two pictures today, so that's okay. We usually have three, but two is also fine. So just let you know that we're also doing weekend events in Starbucks every weekend. You're invited, and I'm going to share a link on how to find those events. Really good things are happening in those events, really good networking. It's an anti-event. It doesn't have any agenda. You just go, have coffee, and meet face-to-face with about 2 or 3 other entrepreneurs. And those are the really impactful gatherings, that you sit with someone for an hour or so and talk about your startup. So that's basically it. And I just want to share a few links with you before Joule is starting. So I'm going to paste them in the chat. You can have a look at them later if they're relevant. Here they are. And I'm just going to go over them quickly. So what do we have here? Startuplink.com, talked about it, register your startup, and also have a look at the ranking table to make sure that you're in the right place. Then we have a link to our Telegram channel. More than 1,700 entrepreneurs are there. Feel free to join us and to communicate and ask questions about startups and find your online community. Other than that, we also have a city partnership program, citypartner.startuplink.com. This is for organizations that want to lead their startup ecosystem. And we're going to do whatever we can to feature you in all the channels that we've got, to make sure in our communities, in our maps, in our report, to make sure that you're receiving a lot of traction. So you can check it if it's interesting there. The next link, the long one, is to our Startup Weekend event. So feel free to join us there as well. Pitching event is the next link. You can always register for the next Wednesday. We want you to come back. We're kind of trying to form a community. So feel free to keep on coming back and sharing with your friends. This event is only possible because people are arriving to it, so and are willing to pitch. So that's important. And before we start, I'll just let you know that we have a few partners that are sponsoring this event. One of them is SEMrush. This is the best market analytics tool out there if you're interested in what your competition is doing. They're giving us, for the members of this group, 14 days for free, and also a model for free for a year. This is a really good offer, and it's secret offer, so you can see it in the first one. The second link is Bluehost, the hosting service that is giving us a discount and affiliate link, so they support this event with an affiliate link. The third link is WeWork. I'm actually now in WeWork. It's the best co-working space in the world. I just love it, and they give our members up to 15% discount using this link and a free tour. And the last thing, just before we start with Joe, is Hubstuff. Hubstuff is the way that we run Startup Link in the last 2 years. And basically, this is a time tracking application that allows us to track the time of all our team members, a lifesaver, and they're giving us 10% discount. So we have a lot of interesting deals here. If something makes sense, just click on the link that you see on the chat and take advantage of it. Joe, we are starting. We're ready to go. So I'm promoting you to a panelist, and I'll just say that because we're gonna probably have a little bit of time, if someone else wants to volunteer and to do a pitch, you're kind of welcome. So we're probably gonna have a little bit of time. So Jules, I'm promoting you to a presenter. Okay, so you should have an unmute button and a video button because you're currently on mute.
Yes.
Good, we can see you and we can hear you. Excellent. You want to share, you're coming from Netherlands, right? If I'm
Yes.
not mistaken. So which city? Yeah. From Amsterdam or?
I'm currently living in The Hague, but I'm in Amsterdam a lot of times a week. So yeah.
Wow. And you have great lights in the background. This is like the best background ever. So you're very lucky. Great. You want to share a presentation with us or you want to go freestyle?
I'm going freestyle because I have something here that I can show to you guys.
Okay.
Although what I have to say is that I think it can't be shared in that way. So okay. Yeah, but maybe next week. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So yeah, if you guys are ready, I am too. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Yul, and this is Eva. And you know, don't see Eva very well, but Eva is a medical home device that can give you more control over your health at home before you see a doctor. Right, yeah, we're all familiar with feeling sick sometimes, and so did I. But instead of going to the doctor, I, like most millennials, decided to go to the internet and search for my symptoms online. And there I found on page 2 that I was very, very sick. So I decided to go to the doctor, and there he didn't see anything, and he sent me home. And at home, I still felt very sick. And then I went back to the doctor, and then he told me that I had to get surgery. And that was the moment I found out that healthcare was very inefficient. So I wanted to change that. And with my background in interaction design, I decided to do some research into self-diagnosis and developed Eva. And so next time I don't have to go to the doctor again, but I can turn to Eva, ask her anything, and she will comfort me with her voice. She can do a physical checkup by measuring my heart, my eyes, and my skin. And she can use that with a lot of information to give me a full diagnosis on my health at home. Besides that, I can take Eva wherever I go. So if I would go to the US or India or whatever where, I can take her with me and have full access and control over my own medical data or medical history. I want to introduce Eva in the Internet of Medical Things market, and that will be worth $509 billion in 2025. Currently, Eva is a working prototype, but needs to be developed further. Because I know that after development, I can make an Eva for $50 and sell her for $199. And then you can get an Eva when you're quite young and take her with you for the rest of your life, because you can add a subscription service with different sensors depending on your own growth and needs. Right now I'm looking for funding to make 10 Evas to do more user testing. And then after that, I can develop the ultimate Eva and sell her for a price that actually I can afford. So this is Eva. My name is Yul. Thank you very much.
Wow, great presentation. Thank you very much. Good. So, Jill, let's maybe we can start with a question that you might want to ask people. Like, for example, did you understand the product? Is there a real pain here? What would be better for you to ask everyone?
What people like, if it would be something that they would use, for instance. Because like there are a lot of different people that like everyone has their own reason why they would use something like this, and I'm interested in like if it would be something that would be a fit.
Excellent. So first of all, I'm going to launch a question of, is there really a pain here? Like, would people use this thing? That's a good question. I would also select this question, so that's great. And yeah, so let people answer the poll and give Jill a little bit of information about what do you think? Like, is this thing really going to sell? Would you use it? And now the most important thing after you answer the poll is to also give us a little bit of feedback in the chat. And maybe expand first of all on why did you answer what you selected to answer in the poll? Why would you use it? Why would you wouldn't use it? What's your resistance maybe to use Eva? So it's going to be really great if you can type your feedback in the chat and let Jill think about first of all anything. What did you think about the presentation? What do you think about the product? Will you use it? Some resistances, problems in the business model, whatever comes to mind. And also think of Jill going to investors now. If you have any feedback for her as she's going to investors, that would be great. Like based on this presentation, is this ready for investors? Any tips, like what was missing, anything that comes to mind. Great. So yeah, let's have a quick look on what people are already. First of all, let's share the poll with everyone. So what we've got here is a little bit problematic, although not that bad. So the idea is that for the question, is there real pain here that requires a solution? You have a giant maybe club. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have one yes, so that's good. If you have 10% of the market, it's really, really good. But you have a very, very big maybe club, although I have a feeling that everyone loved your presentation. So it seems like the value proposition is a little bit, according to everyone, basically, is blurry. It's not bad, because if it's bad, they would say, no way, we don't need this. But it's also not very clear of why should people jump to the shop and get this right now. So definitely remember this graph, because this graph is going to be helpful. You basically want to move more of the orange people to the blue people in a way, a lot more of them, at least half of them. So that's great. The good news is that no one said no, but it's still a little bit blurry. Okay, let's have a look a little bit on the what people are saying. So first of all, Oma is saying that this is an excellent pitch.
And and Kenneth, a family have just one Eva. So I thought about different, say, voice recognition, so that you can have different people using one device. But then when you're talking about medical information, like after a while, like not everyone can use it or can have access to your own data. So right now it looks like that every person has its own unique Eva.
Excellent, that's great. Stefan is asking, is Eva already working? Is it like, so you showed us the prototype and so on, but this is something that was a little bit probably missing. I also think maybe I agree with Stefan that when you do a presentation like that, you kind of want to say, what's the current situation of Eva? Like, what can she do?
Yeah, she's a working prototype, but the thing that you just saw, this thing, is the prototype without the inside. So this is like the visual prototype. I have the working prototype here next to me, so hold on. Which is a little bit bigger, but it's this box, and so it combines everything that I just said, so it works. There is now some talks with medical advisors to have it about like the analyzers, like so after everything is actually measured, taken in account and everything, then there need to be an analyzation to give you an output. And that's something that we work on right now as we speak.
Okay, good. So I would again say, usually, you know, when you say that you have a working prototype, you do elaborate a little bit more about what was done to make it happen, a little bit of the story of how it became from an idea to a prototype. And over here, it's
Uh-huh.
missing. We just know, this is for your next speech. Basically, we
Yeah.
just know that there is a prototype, but it's not clear what's the current status of the prototype. So I would probably go with Stefan and expand a little bit more about how did it, what did you do to create it, and basically what's currently the functionality.
Yeah.
We know about the functionality, but to kind of figure out, is it working right now? Let's see if we have other comments. So Leonard is saying that the product looks great, but the medical application was not clear. I guess that over here, it's kind of like, yeah, we saw that Eva can actually do some checks and so on, but what can she discover in a way? Like what kind of
Yeah.
an example? Maybe if you would give example of kind of like, here is a disease that is easily recognizable by Eva.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So that's a good advice, I
Yeah.
think. Payush is talking a little bit about funding, and maybe it's better to go for a loan. I definitely think it's better to go for investors, because loans are,
Yeah.
why should you take all the risks? So, but that's another option that you have. I think
Yeah. It's the same with me. Like better investors than loan. Yeah.
absolutely, you're already giving your time and dedicating this, so someone has to. And by the way, it's really good to see if someone believes in this enough to actually invest in this. Oma is asking, who did you test this with? Did you do a little bit of testing already or not necessarily? So this is, again, something that relates to the missing part, and we don't have the time to go over the answer now, but the idea is that there was a little bit of a missing information about
Mhm.
what is ever done until now. So there is a prototype, but you want to maybe elaborate a little bit about some things that maybe she can do or has done.
Mhm.
Yeah, Leonard is saying that probably Eva will require FDA approval since it's medical related. You're probably in Europe, so I guess that there are other institutions, but apparently Leonard is kind of insinuating that you might have a problem with the
Yeah.
regulation, because
Yeah. So
so
I already.
you definitely need to discuss
Yeah.
the problem in the pitch, because investors are going to go over this. So this was missing. So next time, definitely. And over here, the idea is not to pitch to the group here is only here to help, but to tell you what
Yeah.
was kind of missing, you know. But
No, but
because
that's
we have
really
only
good.
two people,
Yeah.
maybe you can, just because usually we don't do follow-ups, but because we're only two people pitching, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you've done on regulation.
Yeah. So I did research with that with a different company to look for what kind of regulation is actually necessary. And because it's going to be a consumer product and not like for real, like say people that are already super sick. So let me give you an example. For instance, you can have a glass with beer and you can fill it as much as you want, the whole glass with beer. But the moment you put in on the glass that it's 300 milliliters or something like that, then it becomes a measuring device. And that's the difference between like, say, a medical and consumer in a way. So for me, I'm gonna be in the gray area. So I have to have a little bit of approval, but I don't have to go through the whole uh, spectrum of medical devices because it's gonna be like on that border. So it's gonna be like a gadget, but also like medical functions. Yeah. So we've looked into that. So that's
You'll
awesome.
solve it.
Yeah.
You will solve this. Yeah, because I can think of a scenario when you say if Eva is kind of discovering diseases, then people might say, "I don't go to the doctor anymore. I have Eva," and then we're in a world of problems. So that's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting to see how you tackle this. Good. You have feedback from David that he said that he would like to know more about the data control angle. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned you can carry it with you. Do we give it to doctors around the world? Does it have to be so big? And is there an app on the smartphone as well? So those are all points that maybe are worth discussing. Like, what do you actually do with Eva if she's giving you some kind of
Mm-hmm.
and let's say analysis? Do you take it to the doctor? Will it connect to the doctor? Will the doctor be open-minded? So this is something that all of those are things that might be a little bit missing in the pitch.
Yeah.
And of course, you're probably going to make it much, much smaller. But I would also mention, if it's not an app, if it's not going to be an app, why did you decide to go for a device? to basically say, look, an app cannot do all those things. So that's absolutely great. Yeah. Stefan is saying, have you been thinking about data security? As in the EU, it might get interesting point of medical data. I think we touched on this a little bit when we kind of said that Eva cannot be a family use because of that.
Yeah, one port and everything, like your personal data is not leaving the device. So it's like always on there. And even if someone would go like physically go into your house and steal the device, it's not being traced back to you as a person. If they would like go physically get it, go inside, do shit with it, basically. So there is already like a lot of borders with that before you get to data, and then the data is not useful. Because that's one of like the main, say, company views is to have complete like, you know, privacy and security. Because I know what can be done with that, and I don't want that to happen to my data. So I don't want that to happen to other people's data too, you know? So yeah, that's it. Like it will be complete private and secure. And that's also the same reason why an app will maybe be, but that's something that we are researching now, be an option, because at the moment you decide to do something with your data and an app or a phone, your data can be breached easy, more easy than normal. So that's why that's something that we look into, because a lot of people like to connect all their devices, but we have to take into account like how secure is it, and it can be a decision of someone to do that or to choose for that decision, but yeah, that's something that needs to be researched more. Yeah.
Good. Maybe you can have a lost button if someone is losing their Eva, so like the iPhone. And then for data security, if you discover that someone stole it, you can just have an explosion device that can basically flatten 10 meters. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so this is great. Let's have a look at what Diego is saying. Diego is saying that we're almost running out of time, but let's see. We have a lot of comments for your device, so that's absolutely great. Diego is saying that it would be useful for him to see some documents of showcase studies. User case studies are very missing here. Probably you don't have any, but the idea is that when you do, this is going to be probably, I think Diego insinuates that maybe it's not a good time to go to investors before you have those initial case studies to show a little bit the accuracy of the diagnosis, so something to think about. And then we have Norman that says that this is a good pitch. So he kind of repeats a feedback that we got before. He thinks that the functionality is interesting, but he didn't see the details for analysis of the recorded medical data. And also normally saying, of course, if you go to investors, you want to expand a little bit about the business model. You mentioned in one word subscription, so it could be very interesting. But yeah, maybe to kind of say, why did you choose subscription, especially for investors, over a one-time purchase, for example. Yeah, and Diego is saying that this is a great product, and David is also saying that there are easy diseases to detect that are commonly ignored with eye effect. And again, you would like to see the numbers for those things. What Eva can solve, you know, like it could be like, you know, common things like, but the idea is to kind of say, you would get a lot more attention from people if you would say, did you know that this disease is actually really easily discoverable, but most people don't know that they have it because blah, blah. So that would be great. And David is also mentioning something that is very important, especially if you go to investors. What's the team? So the team element here was greatly missing. And again, I like solopreneurs a lot, but if you're going for investors, the team kind of have to be mentioned.
Yeah, you need
yeah.
Great. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Amazing. So good. So Jill, this was a really nice presentation. You got a lot of tips to work with. One of the things I recommend is maybe copy paste the data, the chat.
Yeah.
You know, so you can go over it later, and basically you have a lot of resistances there that could be, you know, kind of like you can work on another version of your pitch that includes some of those. Some of them are not really relevant for you probably, but some are very relevant and can really help you optimize the pitch when you're pitching next time. So that's absolutely great. Great work, great product as well. Super. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for feedback, like for you and everyone in the chat. It's very helpful. So yeah, I think I'm gonna come back to do it another time and then
Nice. So we're happy to
change it
have
up.
you. Super.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Cool.
Cool. So we can now switch to our second pitch for today, which would be just a second. What was our second pitch? Fayaz, right? Fayaz. So you're gonna do Wahoo delivery. So I'm gonna promote you to in a second. Again, thanks everyone for the feedback. Really, really great feedback. So that was very helpful for I think everyone. And actually, Fayaz, I see that you disappeared. I don't really see you in the chat. Am I missing you? Let me know if in the chat, if you're with us in the chat, send a message. And if not, we're going to have a very early end to the event. So if anyone wants to pitch, I don't see Fayaz, let us know. And if not, I'm going to give you about, so if someone wants to go freestyle or whatever, let us know. And if not, we're just going to close this event with the great presentation of Joe, because that's the only presentation we've got. Great presentation. This was actually one of the best ones that I can remember. A lot of interaction, so that was super fun. I don't see Fayaz, so we're going to have to close this event for today. Again, we are welcome next week, same time, and also 9 p.m. London time. It was a pleasure to have you here. I'm gonna basically try to send a recording after the event to everyone that participated. Jewel, keep up the great work. This is actually really cool. And yeah, thank you all for participating and see you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.